Here we are again today at the end of the second day of the Global Methane, Climate and Clean Air Forum in Washington, D.C. Yesterday, the theme of the day was a call for fast climate action. Today, the theme was putting development in the lead, food security, health, and poverty alleviation benefits. I am joined here today by a distinguished panel of participants and experts who were all over the sessions today and have powerful messages to communicate, and we'd like them to each share their one key message that they took from today and would like to deliver to the public.
Okay, I'll just start. So it was a great session again, seeing all the progress that, for example, the Alliance for Clean Air has established, leading the way in the private sector, but also finding out that we really need to be looking at these synergies between cleaning the air and reducing greenhouse gas emissions.
I want to get 3 takeaways. The first is amazing energy in the room, commitment, it's partnership at its best, coalition building, a lot of good ideas generated and people willing to pick up on them. The second, how important the short-lived climate pollutant reduction is as part of a development strategy in countries, and we heard a lot about that. And the third is private sector is ready. We heard quite amazing things about the willingness to take on clean air across the supply chain. And I'm sure we'll see much more about that, how we can connect that with the willingness of countries to address the topic.
And for me, I really found that the energy coming from both the governments and the private sector is something we really need to build momentum on. And it's amazing to see that governments are saying we have these plans to put in place to really reach the 30% by 2030 from the Global Methane Pledge. And even the private sector saying that, you know, all of these policies are going to be very good for private sector. And when you start hearing that message, you know that something is going to happen when these two stakeholders come together to really reduce SLCPs and be actively moving towards reductions in methane.
Yeah, so I think what I liked and took away from this day today was the fact that we are always looking for the win-win-win solutions. But we can't forget that there are losers, and in order to get action to move forward, we need to be thinking about how can we reduce the risks to potential losers, and how we can really try to get over these barriers in terms of action. So that was sort of one key message that came through very clearly today.
For me, it was almost a day divided into 3 parts. We started with ambition and what are barriers, policies that are needed to reach the ambitions. In the middle, it just looked into different scenarios, different sections, and just heard about the great knowledge that's in this room. So both the actions that we need to take, but also new methods, satellite monitoring of methane. It's so developing. And then finishing off with the whole great potential we can unlock by governments partnering with the private sector as well to really reach our ambitions, but maybe even accelerate them even further and hopefully eliminate air pollution completely.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Now, we have 1 day left in the forum. Tomorrow, as I said, today the focus was on development benefits and how do we leverage those to produce additional action and energy for climate and clean air. Tomorrow will be focused on implementation. How do we actually get the action we need? We'll be focused on finance, private sector and public sector action. I wonder if any of you would like to reflect on what you'd like to hear from tomorrow, what you'd like to bring to the conversation tomorrow to actually achieve the action we've set before ourselves.
Yeah, I would like to see that we have policies and financing that incentivize the systemic shifts we need to do, saying technology and electrification, better agriculture management as well as also putting a price on actually polluting.
Yeah, I mean, talking of incentives, I think we need to be talking also about business models that then really overcome these first cost barriers that we see in many of the instances of action that we need to take for addressing the short-lived climate polluters.
What I'd like to see and hear tomorrow would be what kind of financing would be made available to countries who have made the pledge and who need the assistance to make things happen, but also what do we need to incentivize behavior shift in our societies so that we move towards an economy that doesn't thrive on polluting.
I would like to see the connection being made between the policies, the projects, creating a real pipeline, and the finance that is available. And I don't want to steal your thunder, but you financed that study that looked at very little finance actually going into, for example, methane action. And at the same time, there's a lot of funding out there. How can we make sure that the things that we've been discussing across the whole week here, that are fast action opportunities that we cannot afford to miss out on, that they meet what the priorities that have been set by the funders. So telling the narrative, how this actually connects to what they would like to do as well. So there's a bit of a story that we need to still spin, I think.
And so yes, we're only spending 2%, for example, of climate finance on methane, and even that is, all climate finance we know is already at a lower level. So how do we unlock the incentives so the private sector comes in? Today, the private sector leads investment on renewable energy, which is perhaps the most effective way to reduce methane emissions. And how do we replicate the success models on having a more sustainable waste sector, agricultural sector, and how we also plug leaks. Today, 70% of mitigation can be achieved in the energy sector, and virtually nothing is being invested by the private sector because it's just more profitable to extract more oil than stopping the leaks. So that means that it's not only about the economic value or benefit, it's also the pricing pollution. Otherwise, nobody's going to take action.
Powerful messages. Well, I'm looking forward to the discussion tomorrow. I hope everyone will join us for another wonderful day, the closing day of the forum. And with that, thank you very much for participating in this summary discussion.